watching the blood come out.
Mm.
I'm watching them trying to get tone back on my uterus. It was really traumatic for me, but I had all my people on speed dial. They called my phone tree. They were like, save her life,
Mm.
period. Now, today.
Mm.
I didn't plan on coming out with a hysterectomy, and I haven't really shared that a lot publicly. But yeah, it was the only way to save my life was to just take it out.
Welcome to Fourth Trimester Voices, the podcast where we delve deep into the fourth trimester. I'm your host, Dr. Choa.
Hello, listeners. Today on Fourth Trimester Voices, I am joined with Dr. Toni Haley. She is a powerhouse physician, best-selling author, TEDx speaker, and executive coach who has spent over 25 years helping high performers break free from burnout, perfectionism, and imposter syndrome. Behind all the incredible success is a deeply personal story, one of resilience, transformation, and the raw realities of postpartum. Dr. Toni faced her own challenges during the postpartum period, reminding us that no level of success or preparation shields women from the fourth trimester struggle. Today, we are going to talk about how she turned her pain into purpose, building a blueprint for moms who want to thrive after birth, not just survive. Welcome, Dr. Haley, to our show.
Thank you so much. I should have you introduce me everywhere. Thanks for having me. I really love your mission.
For those of you who may not know, I am in a lot of circles with Dr. Haley, and she has inspired a lot of things within my life, my personal struggles, and watching her in the public eye on social media, she is very encouraging. If you're listening to her speak today, that you're going to walk away with something. You're going to walk away inspired. You're going to walk away motivated. So I am excited to dive into your story.
Thank you so much. There's probably something in our conversation today for everyone. So hang in there if it starts off on one foot. I have a feeling it's a little bit more full circle than people expect because all this shouldn't happen to one person.
So, Dr. Toni, you've achieved so much in your life, right? All these successes. But behind all of the success is a very personal journey to motherhood. You've spoken about becoming a mom publicly before. Can you share a little bit about that journey with us?
Well, first of all, the medical community offended me. They always want to categorize us. And so being over 34 and 3 months makes you advanced maternal age. So I'll start with the fact that being what we call advanced maternal age when I started was pretty shocking. It was pretty distressing because people quickly shuffled me into a box saying, oh, well, if you're over 35, over 40, I was over 45. I investigated my options when I was in my 30s and I'm still single. It's not like I didn't do my due diligence. The options available to me just didn't look good. It didn't resonate with me. So I took the risk that no, I'm not going to freeze my eggs. No, I'm not going to take certain steps. It just didn't feel right. So having everybody start their conversations with, hey, old lady, geriatrics
Geriatric.
conversation, they call you geriatric pregnancy if you're lucky enough to be in that club. And so I just want to say that that was also really hard to be the patient after being the doctor. But for me, it also was pretty disheartening that there's things we don't talk about with IVF. I was having problems getting pregnant. We had done all of the checklists. We knew what to try and what to monitor. And so when I showed up at maybe 41, they looked at my labs and said, you better hurry up.
Mm.
I just got married a few months before that. Now, we weren't necessarily quite ready to rush things, but then I ended up having to look for doctors who were willing to do IVF. And the closer you get to 40 anything, the more they have some rules. And I didn't really know that it was just impersonal charts. Oh, over this age, we don't touch it. So a lot of the recommendations I got just didn't apply to me, which was tough. It was a grieving period for me.
I think for a woman who's high achieving, who is so used to having some control of their life and their mission, how did you navigate that loss of control that often comes with IVF?
That is such a good question. First of all, I had to get comfortable asking for help. It was a journey of, do you want it enough? Do you want it more than you fear X, Y, or Z? Do you want it more than losing your options? This is the bigger reason to just push through. I was just looking for an outcome. I got to the point where people who probably didn't want to hear about it anymore, but it was important for me to put it out there more because I needed help. I needed recommendations. I needed to know what's the next right step. A lot of women can't find care because they sell the statistics. Like they're basically selling people on their success rate. So if you're a little older, anything over advanced maternal age, honestly, 30, 33, 34, you better get on it. So at my age, people were like, hang it up. I didn't accept that. I went from trying to be private to trying to be proactive very quickly because I was getting doors shut in my face.
Wow. When did you finally find that doctor who you were like, okay, this is the one. I feel comfortable in this space. Let's go.
It's interesting you asked that because it took a village. It wasn't one doctor. And that's another thing I want to tell people. Please don't get comfortable in that one space because real talk, if it wasn't for the referral after the referral, I needed several doctors working together to take me through each stage of that journey. Okay, let's try to get you some embryos. Let's evaluate your situation. Let's talk to you and your husband. This was a journey that took probably 5 doctors. And I'm going to give a tip right now: involve your primary care physician.
Mm.
I did not lean in on my OBGYN because I know from being a primary care doc, they fit into certain compartments, but she's the one who's going to take me from the best health to pregnancy, hopefully with good health, and then afterwards. So I involved her from day one. And that's probably the smartest thing I did because she was the reason I got through it all.
Yes, I love this tip number one. And I preach this to all of my moms because I think what ends up happening with women is as soon as they get pregnant, is they let go of that primary care physician and OB becomes everything. Unfortunately, your OB is focused on getting you to get a healthy baby and deliver. And everything that comes with, there's a lot of things that come with one getting pregnant and a pregnancy. If you don't have that relationship in the postpartum period, it is hard. You may think you want to call OB because of the X, Y, and Z symptoms. She's baby's out now, and so they may not have that time for you. So that relationship with your primary care is key. So thank you so much for bringing that up.
One more thing I'll say that I didn't know.
Mhm.
These people told me in order to proceed, when I finally found doctors willing to work with me, they were
Mhm.
like, you need your mammogram up to date, your pap up to
Wow.
date, and a colonoscopy, which was the one that stumped me. They wanted EKGs, and I had to see MFM to sign off on me being older. So that could have stalled me a lot, but I had already done all those things. Just heads up, if you didn't have that relationship with your PCP already, good luck getting all those things done.
I did not know that.
They said, if you're going to be on hormones, we
Uh,
need to get all of that investigated first. They were looking for something to be wrong with me.
so how did your pregnancy end up? How was your pregnancy and your childbirth experience once you got through getting pregnant?
I'll say this. I only felt comfortable getting pregnant because I am trained as a National Academy of Sports Medicine trainer. And
Mm.
so I have over 8,500 miles on my Peloton. I was serious about getting healthy to get pregnant because I
Mhm.
understood that pregnancy, you lose a lot of control. The placenta kind of runs the show, and you can end up with gestational diabetes, even if you're super healthy, right? For me, the pregnancy was uneventful. Every time I went for a screen, whether it be my sugars, blood pressure, they're like, you're fine. They kept looking for something to be wrong with me. There was nothing wrong. Absolutely nothing. I had insomnia and nausea, much longer than reported. But honestly, my pregnancy was so uneventful, it made everyone a little nervous, like, well, when's the other shoe gonna drop?
Wow.
Yeah. So I didn't have complications despite being 47.
Mm.
My ancestors were with me. I was very healthy in my pregnancy. It felt very meant to be. It wasn't until later. And I feel like the system failed me because if I didn't have my very long checklist in front of me, I think something bad could have transpired. If they almost got a little lax
Mm.
because they saw me doing well. At some point, everybody anatomy screen went well. I feel like the vigilance went down. I'm not saying I didn't have appointments, but the vigilance towards like, oh, she's fine. If it wasn't for all the prep, I wouldn't have gotten there. And I'm talking like stocking up on all the things, getting a pediatrician, getting information about breastfeeding before I went into the hospital. It's almost funny. Like if I hadn't done the nerdy things, when I ran into trouble, I wouldn't have had what I needed.
I know you're obviously a physician, but a lot of us physicians can say that we went into pregnancy and were hit by a bus with postpartum. And so we didn't do the preparation, right? And so I can't say that it was because you were a physician that made you so prepared for postpartum.
Yeah.
What triggered that part of your brain being like, I need to prepare for this part of my life?
As a coach, I teach my clients to be the role model in action. So I needed to activate my own, not be a hypocrite. I kind of stepped out of who I was and said, well, if I were talking to someone else, what would I advise them to do when we know that the risk factors are high, when we know the statistics? I've looked at them all. They're pretty appalling, and I don't even know if they're accurate. They're probably downplaying the fact the numbers, the numbers are bad enough without them being fully true. And I also found this one stat that if you're over 40, it's nearly 5 times higher the rate of maternal death. So
Wow.
when I realized the data, I looked it up. I didn't know it off by heart. I looked up what could I control, like what risk factors could I control, and what would I tell one of my clients who's going through something like this? Because I teach them to be proactive, not reactive. And I insist that they model this behavior for the people in their lives or the women that they coach, because a lot of them are actually leaders in medicine as well. So, what would I have them do?
Absolutely.
So, instead of just kind of passively moving on, I started to look at what factors, risk factors I could control. And so then I went out and bought a blood pressure cuff. This is way back when the anatomy screen came back normal. I'm at 22 weeks or so. And I'm like, oh, we're having a baby. But I just kind of wanted to do a good job and be a model citizen. And the system doesn't help you do that. So I bought a blood pressure cuff that I could do on my own and started taking it at home, even though it was normal. I just wanted to get a log going so I knew what my normal was. My husband's like, all right, that's what we're doing. He started doing his too. I mean, it's dad, mom being healthy together. And so we kept a low blood pressure log in the kitchen. Like that's where we meet every day. I went and got a pediatrician because I knew that if the baby had problems at birth, I wanted someone who was going to round at my hospital. So I looked at what doctors round at the hospital that I wanted to give birth in from both the OB side and the pediatrician side. I thought it was important that we have continuity of care. And I interviewed them and chose one before we began. I was introduced to all the partners in the practice. So I felt comfortable with the other OBs or had appointments with them or had appointments with the other pediatricians that were going to be on call. I just didn't want to be meeting someone brand new just in case.
Right. I
Yeah,
love
I know it's super anal, but
these are the things that I think that moms need to know. I did not pick a pediatrician, and when the baby came, they're like, "So who's your pediatrician?" I'm like, they're like, "Ma'am, your baby was in the NICU. We're gonna need a pediatrician." It's like,
I also knew I was a primary care doc and I knew about those things. We were the family medicine group that did a lot of the circumcisions and stuff. I had an inside track on that and felt like I couldn't be this person who was being asked and didn't know. But I also didn't know who rounded in my hospital. I asked in my doctor circles and my motherhood circles, hey, who's great? Someone had just moved into the area. Even that required a village. She wasn't known to the community, but she was in this small group. Oh, she just relocated there. Check her out. And that's who's my daughter's pediatrician to this day,
wow.
asking for help. And then with breastfeeding, I didn't know anything about it. So I bought all the things that I thought I would need. I did my research and I made sure I packed a bag with everything so that when I went to the hospital, when things fell off a cliff, I had everything I needed for the lactation consultation in the hospital with my stuff so
Your
they could measure me and see.
That's fantastic. Such great advice. Oh my gosh. Physically, how did you do postpartum?
Let's take one step back.
Mm.
That stupid induction did not do a damn thing. That
Oh
cervix did
no.
not budge. They said, hey, based on this study, you have to have, we want to talk to you about the C-section. It's a scheduled thing, the Affirm trial, if I recall. And I said, okay, I'm going to follow the recommendations. No, I did not want a C-section, but I also didn't progress. So it is what it is. And then I had a tough time after the baby came. The C-section went smoothly. All of a sudden, there were a lot of bells and whistles and people rushing to the room. I lost way too much blood. And the most traumatic thing for me was watching, no one saw me looking up in the mirror.
Mm,
Those mirrors in the OR are reflective.
mm,
And so I'm watching the blood come out.
mm,
I'm watching them trying to get tone back on my uterus. It was really traumatic for me, but there was a group looking after the baby. There was a
mm,
group looking after my blood loss.
mm,
The doctor on call came in because they scheduled it and it was wrapping up right when she was coming on. So the on call doctor rushes in. I actually knew her, which was helpful.
mm,
She ran my first one years ago. So I knew who it was. I'm just like, please, Lord, I don't want to die because my husband told me before I went and he said the one thing that would scare me to death is if you died. I don't want to raise this baby alone. This is our, my third kid. It's your first kid. I only did this because I thought we were going to do it together. Please don't die on me. And so it was just, they had a lot of questions for him
mm,
and he froze. What if we had talked about all these things. So I'll say that for me, postpartum started right then. And it was the phone tree that I had created months in advance that saved me, or at least made me feel like I didn't have to be anything but the patient. In that moment, my surgeon wanted to talk to my husband.
mm,
He couldn't. One of my closest friends, the ER doctor, way out in California, and I'm in South Carolina, and she had her phone. She said, I had my phone on my desk all day, knowing you were going to the OR. And then I had another friend who's head of an Ivy League OBGYN department. Like I had all my people on speed dial. They called my phone tree. They were like, save her life,
mm,
period. Now, today.
mm.
I didn't plan on coming out with a hysterectomy, and I haven't really shared that a lot publicly. But yeah, it was the only way to save my life was to just take it out. I had had difficult conversations and healthcare power of attorneys conversations and all that prior. So my friends knew what I wanted, and that's how it went.
Thank you for sharing that. I know that's really hard and oftentimes not the outcome that we want. But I'm so happy that you had friends and family who prioritized you. And so when you're going through and reliving all these experiences, you can just know that you're here, you're able to be here for your baby because of those decisions that were made that day. Thank you for sharing with us because I know there's a mom who may have had to make that decision or may have to make that decision coming up. Hearing your experience and how you dealt with that is important.
When it's you, your friends, your family, they're going through emotions too. I wrote a whole tree of things that could happen, and they knew my heart. It wasn't a hard decision for anyone once they could get the phone call. And for me, I guess I was kind of under anesthesia a little bit, and they had to knock me out because I was having pain and seeing all this bad stuff happening. But communicating your desires in advance, whether it be a blood transfusion, something smaller, or whatever, please really sit down and talk about that with your healthcare team, your family.
Mm,
Mm.
absolutely. How did you feel once you held the baby and those next few days? What were the emotions that you were experiencing?
Because I didn't really plan to have surgery, because I was grieving the fact that we had other embryos and I was hopeful this was the first of more children, I was just grieving a bit or kind of numb or kind of zoned out. But I guess being more a couple in the L&D, triggered some really racist attacks at that time. People were trying to keep my baby from me. They were trying to force me to breastfeed. when I had intended to, but the stress and trauma, they were kind of bullying me. They weren't giving my baby formula. Those hospitals that have those policies around breastfeeding, what do they call them?
Metrics. They have hospital metrics. How many women breastfeed? How many women X, Y, and Z.
My husband, the minute he went to leave to take a shower, there was this whole team of nurses that were trying to come in and tell me what we were going to do. And luckily, I got in touch with my PCP's office and it's connected to the hospital. She walked over and she said, "Oh, this is what we're doing. This is what we're not doing. You give that baby some formula because the mommy said so." I needed so much advocacy, but it felt good to know that I could advocate for myself in advance, but also have people who would champion my best interests.
Your story is what a lot of Black women talk about. And oftentimes within our medical circles, there's a lot of gaslighting. This doesn't happen. But when you walk through it as a professional, as a physician, you can imagine what other women go through. One thing I noticed in your story is you said you called your PCP on speed dial and they came in, right?
Mhm.
Some people may not necessarily have that.
No.
I always preach a doula, but
Yes.
what are other steps that Black women can safeguard?
It doesn't matter who it is. It needs to be someone who knows what you want and is championing. I don't mean these birth plans because things didn't go to plan, as you heard. But
Right.
what they do know is that, listen, I do want to breastfeed, but if I can, I can't. If I do want these things, but if it's not feasible, let's move forward. If the baby's not getting enough milk, we're going to get this formula going. These things were obvious to my team. When they weren't being followed, I said, okay, let's expedite this exit and let's document. So I kept a journal, documented, and women need to have their round the clock person,
Mm.
doula, a friend, someone who's very clear on what we're advocating for, to keep an eye on these people who are supposed to be professionals.
You don't know what type of day they're having. You don't know if they're trying to get out of there and make decisions based on that. They may not be for your best interest, right? I remember my experience when I called my friend who was a physician. She was downstairs.
Yep, yep, she felt it. The energy.
She was like, I'm downstairs. I've just been waiting. And she came in, and when my ex-husband was standing there by my bedside with deer in the headlights, and she just took over, right? And everybody needs that person because honestly, you can't be mom, advocate, physician. Like you are drugged up, you are in pain. There's no way you can make rational decisions right now. And you could easily be bullied into something that was not aligned with what you wanted. So, what does that look like within those next few weeks at home?
The bad news was that those blood pressure readings I used to have started off okay. It started off just fine, but preeclampsia found me.
Postpartum preeclampsia.
No, it's insidious, it's quiet, and then it's there. And so my blood pressures were coming back up, but the baby's out, and people were like, "Oh, just keep an eye on it." So I ended up over back in L&D or triage, if you will, because they knew that I just had a baby there. And everybody kind of downplayed it. No big deal. Everything's fine. Just take this med, go home. But when I went home, I started swelling. I started worrying because of all the fluid shifts from surgery and IV fluids. I couldn't tell if it was danger zone or not. And everybody was trying to downplay it. I went back.
Mm.
I just prove it. Make sure that I'm okay. And I just had some hostile run-ins with the ER because you're no longer pregnant. Trying to
Mhm.
get up to L&D isn't
Oh,
really a thing.
right.
They're
Yes,
like, you're not pregnant.
right,
And I'm
right.
like, but I'm at risk. I mean, this was literally within 7 to 10 days. So just being aware, knowing the signs, feeling concerned, I had to fight with them to let me back up there because I made a stink about it. I said, at least let the docs up there evaluate me. And they didn't having to put me on an increased dose of medication. Last thing you need is to stroke out or something like that. It just felt like a long period of fighting and not really getting to enjoy being a mom and then breastfeeding. I will tell any mom it's okay to quit. I
Yeah.
had the plan you have when you get pregnant, or it might have gone great before,
Mm.
but this time, that 6 months is just a suggestion. There's not even strong real research around that, in my opinion. So, what I did was I asked around, I asked other moms and other doctors, when would there be a threshold of risk benefit where I can quit? I wanted to quit. And I found out that about 60% of moms do quit before their intention. It was really mental health.
Yes.
When I wasn't sleeping, when I was spending more time pumping than taking care of my baby, sometimes she lied, sometimes she didn't. When I realized that dream was just a dream and I wasn't even producing enough milk to support her, I could get her through the day and then I had to do formula supplementation at night. Even with lactation consultants, which is another person that you should have on your list, even with the outpatient lactation consultants and all their tips and things I bought, at 4 months, I quit. I said, it's not worth
Your
what it's
mental.
doing to me.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think moms need to hear that because I think once we moved away from telling moms, okay, you don't need to breastfeed, here's some formula, then we went back into a society where it's like breastfeed, formula is not great. And I love those campaigns, right? Especially for our
Yeah.
community because there are many benefits. However, that does not apply to everyone. And just because so and so had a beautiful breastfeeding experience, it doesn't necessarily mean that will be yours. Sometimes, for your own mental health, you need to stop so that you can bond with your baby, so that you can enjoy your baby, so that you can focus on your healing. And so just release yourself if you're bound by those expectations, which are really hard, especially for high performers.
I am not a typical high performer. I ask breast
Mhm.
surgeons and other people who do a lot of this advising, and they always cite this one study, healthy mom, healthy baby. If the mom's mental health is tanking, just get out of there. I hired a postpartum doula. I called in a favor. One of my friends had referred someone to a friend and they traveled to me because I didn't want to meet anyone new. I
Mhm.
knew her and I hired someone
I
because
love that.
yeah, I didn't no new friends, but people, I mean, I think I'm just favored and blessed, but when I realized what it was like to try to do my care
Mhm.
post surgical post C-section,
Covering.
plus I have stairs in my home, plus
Mhm.
sleep deprivation and breastfeeding, I hired someone and I had more help for a while.
This is great. I want to kind of recap on all the things that you did, right? We talk about the lactation consultant, right? And I emphasize lactation consultant is for feeding your baby. So whether formula or breastfeeding, still need one. Lactation consultant. Um,
Mm,
you had, I'm gonna say doula, but your primary care doctor served that purpose. You had
yeah.
your point person who understood your wishes, knew what you needed, and could advocate for you in the event that you did not know what to do. And then you had your family circle, family and friend circle, who also was there to support you when you
Hmm.
right? And then you also started some habits in the prenatal period, which was monitoring your blood pressure and knowing the side effects, knowing what conditions to look out for so that you can advocate for yourself. I work in the ER. I love my colleagues. They're amazing ER physicians, but depending on where you work, you may not have exposure to how things present. I have seen when women come in with symptoms that are clear postpartum preeclampsia, but are diagnosed as different things. One of my patients, migraine headache. She was
Yeah.
diagnosed with migraine when it was not a migraine.
Right.
Migraine plus you just have gestational high blood pressure, just go home. She has a headache. Oh, but her labs are fine. Your labs will be fine, but you have symptoms. But
Right.
because she had an advocate, she was able to call, does this sound right? Knowing your side effects allows you to be empowered. I know those are just a couple of things that I've learned so far on the phone here, but I know you have a couple other tips that moms can sort of have to reduce the aftermath of
Yeah.
childbirth.
Yeah, everybody tells you to pack a bag. Make sure you get your bag packed. I decided to turn that into an acronym pack. Here's what to pack. I wrote it down because I have lots of friends who have had kids and I've only had one. Pack your essentials. There has to be a mom bag. The baby bag, you're going to have a cute outfit and all that good stuff. But I packed a separate bag just for breastfeeding. So if you're breastfeeding, bring all the things that you're interested in checking out. buy it in advance and let them tell you in the lactation consultation in the hospital. Because honestly, you don't know anything about it. And they'll be like, not with your nipple shape. They'll basically say, send that back to the store. It's not for you. You might find out you want to bring any important documents or let people know where your documents are. I used to be an insurance agent for life and health. Let people know where your life insurance policies are. Get those things in order. Bring a copy of the policy number, the phone tree, and all those things with you. Honestly, most of us, we love our man, we love our family, but they need help. They need a checklist. I would say A is all about like assembling the team. We talked about some of those team members. Pelvic floor PT was one of the ones that I really, yes, sister. I was serious about getting back right. Pelvic floor PT. I had de Quervain, so I had to have hand PT. I saw the hand surgeon. I told him get out my face and got me a PT. I had consulted with a postpartum psychiatrist. My doctor, my PCP ended up managing my postpartum meds for postpartum depression. I had a tough time, but I came around. Having that relationship with that person really helped me. The lactation consultant, the postpartum doula, and having the hotline for the lactation consultant, keep them close by. I also had people cook for me before I went in.
Those nesting parties, right?
Oh, a nesting party. Clean
Yes.
up, cook. So in the freezer was gumbo, chicken masala. My girlfriend flew in to do my shower and then cooked me a bunch of food and left it for me. C is all about creating that birth plan and the postpartum plan at the same time because you just want all your what ifs to be covered. So you just want to make sure that if there's boundaries, I feel like I did a workshop for boundaries because a lot of women don't have them or they wait until something goes wrong. Just communicating what your wishes are, keeping the support on hand, meal trains, housekeepers, postpartum doulas. Who's going to drive you to appointments? Because I had surgery, even knowing how you plan on getting to those appointments, because people go back to work. People are like, okay, you had a baby. Yeah, but now you have DeQuervans, you have braces on both hands. You need help. Who's watching the baby if you're going alone? Doctor's appointments for the baby, lactation consultants appointments. Luckily, my husband and my parents and my family tag team. But you'd be surprised how many appointments there are. So getting your resources and communicating. Some people are easy. It's easy for them to give you a ride, but you got to let them know. They say, "How can I help?" and you never answer. Having your postpartum team and getting to those postpartum visits, such as pelvic floor PT, they acupuncture was another one that I use. I love my acupuncturist. I didn't use them during pregnancy because I was so fed up with the IVF appointments. But I just feel like we do so much to get ready and we do so much for the baby, but we really don't have a strong list for mom's recovery.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking my language. And, I think that the steps that you took lessen that blow for you. I can't imagine what postpartum would have looked like for you if those steps were not in place. Well, we are nearing the end. And one question I want to ask you is how are you different mentally, emotionally, spiritually? You work with people, you're a people person. And I know this experience changed you. How has it made you different?
There's a PhD, Kristen Neff, who speaks about self-compassion. If I were to say anything, I would say giving myself grace first is probably what has, I don't know, when you're a high performer, you go, 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 and maybe don't celebrate enough. More gratitude. I'm walking in more, asking for help and being more open to not planning everything. You mentioned control. I've learned to give myself just more grace, more space, more time, and making sure that I'm showing my daughter that same grace. So instead of being this authority, a lot of us grew up with authoritarian parents. Raise your hand if do as I say, not as I do. It's not how we want our kids to feel. So I let my little advocate speak up. I give her more space and I tell her when mommy makes a mistake. I'm very good about saying, maybe I was wrong about that. So I just think I'm more how I wanted my mom to be or my dad to be, and I lost my mom when I was 3 in a car accident. So my daughter's 3 now. And so I try to make sure every day full of setting aside time for what's important and not being so driven, a little bit more gracious, a little bit more fun, and a little bit more intentional so that if some reason I'm not here, she got the best of me.
I know that someone who's listening on the show is like, how can I reach Dr. Toni? How can I have these conversations? Where can they find you if they want to ask you a question or if they want to work with you? Where can they reach you?
There's going to be probably a link in the show notes. A lot of times people are just not sure how to make the adjustments, especially as professionals, especially after they become a mom and things have to really be overhauled. Work-life mastery is not easy. So I would say just if you're not sure, reach out and we'll see if there's a way to get you to the next right thing. It's not always working with me. Sometimes it's just reassurance that you're doing a good job and that it's not time. You don't have to overhaul it today. Maybe it's just incremental.
That's great advice. Any affirmations that you want to leave with our moms today?
I wrote a book on affirmations.
Well, okay.
Reprogram your mindset. DrTonysBook.com, you can get it. But Reprogram Your Mindset 100 Winning Quotes and Affirmations for High Performers is my book. And it really goes through the whole gamut of what it takes to be the whole you, not neglecting any compartment. The affirmation I would probably speak over all of us is I am enough, I have enough, and I'm capable. And asking for help is my superpower. It's really important. You cannot go into this medical community and come out alive, in my case, if it wasn't for a lot of helping hands that all played a role in my well being. Not just coming out alive, but coming out feeling good, joyful, hopeful, and able to lead others again, including my own household. It's really important.
Thank you so much, Dr. Toni, for coming and dropping gems and giving a part of yourself. It's been lovely having you on the show today.
Thank you so much. I will leave them with one thing. Affirmations can start with my favorite four ways: I am, I commit, I choose, and I forgive.
Mm.
Sometimes the first person you forgive is yourself for being whatever that is. But I just want to make sure that if there's a chance that you're being a little too hard on yourself, you give yourself a little space and grace and just commit to doing a little bit better as we move forward.
Amen. All right. Thank you so much. Until next time, everyone. Are you navigating pregnancy and postpartum alone? Are you feeling overwhelmed by the lack of support? You're not alone, and you don't have to do this alone. With EM Care to You, I offer personalized in-home and telemedicine support designed to guide moms through the challenges of the postpartum period. Whether you need total on-call services or periodic check-ins in the home, I help women recognize warning signs and I support you as your advocate, and I am here for you the entire step of the way. I want to create a postpartum plan that's all about you, your health, and your recovery. Follow me on Instagram at Dr. Choa for tips, resources, and to book me. DM me or email me if you have any other questions. I'm on all social media platforms under Dr. Choa, DrChowa. Let's build a village of support. Let's give you the hope that you need to get through this period of time. Take care.
My name is Dr. Choa, and it's been lovely talking with you all today. Take care.